Hello and welcome back to the GB Fantasy Football channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 17 deadline. Of course, it is a swift turnaround between deadlines this week, with it being a Friday night one on Boxing Day for us in the UK. So don't be caught out by it. Going to be saying my final thoughts on my team, covering the potential injury news as well, and of course the biggest price rises from Game Week 16 going into Game Week 17. So without further ado, let's crack on with the content. On the day this gets released onto the channel, it will of course be Christmas Day. So for those of you out there who do celebrate it, Merry Christmas to you. I'm more than likely at this stage having a few drinks and probably eating an absolute metric truck ton of food. Lots of it have been prepped prior, but today we are getting into the football related stuff and of course the Sun Dream Team stuff. If you do enjoy today's content, of course it's over the festive period, smash a thumbs up on the video. 100 is the target with all Sun Dream Team videos on the channel. Go down below and hit the subscribe button as well. With it being Christmas, we're on the road to 1,500 subscribers. It's completely free, doesn't cost you anything, but it does help the channel out massively. Now, first up, the injury news this week, and it has been a bit devastating for a few of our teams, I'd say. We're starting off with Arsenal. Hincapié, a player that I brought in to cover the Arsenal defence. People really well owned. Timber, Raya, the occasional Saliba, who was of course out with an injury, but Hincapié missed the midweek game against Crystal Palace. We believe he has a collarbone issue. There was an incident in the game at the weekend where Calafiori jumped over and pretty much landed on him heavily, and it does seem like he's going to be out for at least Game Week 17's double, maybe Game Week 18, so enough to potentially get him out of our teams, depending on if you've got a substitutionship, of course. Ben White remains out, and Gabriel and Havertz are both close to returning to the Arsenal lineup. So that's really good news for Arsenal. Not so much for their assets. It's going to include more rotation. I mean, we've already got two centre forwards in Gyökeres and Jesus, so where Havertz fits into all that is still yet to be seen. Moving on to Liverpool, a very big injury update. Alexander Isak finally got one of his first goals, I believe, in the Premier League. His second one after the one away to West Ham a few game weeks ago. Scored against Tottenham, but the tackle from Mickey van der Ven has caused him, we believe, to break his leg. It's either a fractured ankle or a broken leg. They're still unsure on that one, so he will be out for, they say it's at least several months. So I'm talking 2-3 months down the line, but they say he will play again this season. It makes Ekitike a very, very good option going forward. Maybe they sign a winger in the January transfer window, potentially put Gakpo back up front where he did play quite a few times for the Netherlands in the international duty, but it's not ideal for Liverpool. Of course, last season, lots of attacking options. With that injury to Alexander Isak, it's leaving Ekitike, who wasn't necessarily a 90-minute man, very much up front on his own at the minute. And Konate, another surprise absentee, from Liverpool's training session in the week. Apparently, he was met with the Liverpool injury medical facility. I think it's got some fancy name at the entrance to the training facility. He didn't train, so he will be a major doubt for the weekend. They do think that Robertson will pair with Van Dijk if he doesn't overcome his fitness issues, but that is still one to be seen. Of course, all these injury updates aren't as updated as they normally are. They would normally come a day or two before the deadline, which would be Thursday, Friday time. Sorry, Thursday, Wednesday, with the deadline being Friday. But that is Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, so we're not really getting any. I think there was only 3 press conferences on Christmas Eve. I've waited as long as I could, so it's not as quite up to date, but unfortunately we're going to have to gamble a little bit on our transfers this week. Over to Newcastle, their woes still continue. Not a lot of defensive options at all. Trippier, Botman and Burn all remain out with their respected injuries. Not expected to be back at all in any game in Game Week 17. Pope does have a chance to return us. For those of you who do own Aaron Ramsdale, it's definitely one to keep a close eye out on. As for Manchester United, a player that many of us brought in over the last few game weeks, Bruno Fernandes. We spoke about him a little bit on the transfer plans and initial thoughts on the first video of this week. Go check it out if you did miss that one. We picked up on a few interesting stats from game week 14 to 16 that might come into my transfer plans at the end of this video. But for Bruno Fernandes, he's definitely out of game week 17. Ruben Amorim, Sugar Umbrella comes to mind. He was absolutely useless. He refused to give any information away, but he did say he wasn't available for any double, but any games in the double game week 17, that is. So for Bruno Fernandes, also has to be moved on, unfortunately. Kobbie Manu does miss out due to an injury. Whether or not you believe that is up to you after what his brother did the other week. And finally, Chelsea. Enzo Maresca's come out and said Cole Palmer is ready for 90 minutes. It's big news for us Sun Dream Team players. Whether he means 90 minutes in back-to-back games over game week 17 and 18 is still yet to be seen. But seeing how close Cole Palmer is coming back to his fitness-wise, I think he played 75 against Newcastle at the weekend. A 90-minute every game Cole Palmer definitely gets into our Sun Dream teams. Moving on to the biggest price rising players going into the game week 17 deadline. This week, there's not too many that are rising either 0.2, 0.3, the standout options, of course. I think there's only one player on this list who's projected to rise 0.2. That is, of course, down to the statistical data on not only fpl.co.uk, fantastic website. Go over there, check it out if you're unsure on all sorts of data and if you want to check some player prediction prices going into that deadline. So when we get to him, I will point that one out. But for the rest of the players, they are 0.3 rising, predicted that is. We start off with David Raya in goal. A player that would, under normal circumstances, be definitely under my radar this week, considering my transfer plans that we'll get to in just a little while. David Raya, you know he's going to play pretty much every game. He might not play the last Champions League game going into the new year. I think Arsenal by then will have fairly confidently qualified in that top 8 position. So I think Kepa once again will play. And I do think Kepa might actually play the League Cup games against Chelsea, but I'm not too sure on that one. In the league, though, Raya is the unmistakable number 1 for Arsenal, and he will not lose his position in a very good defensive unit, that is. And the only player on today's list that isn't projected to rise 0.3 is Reece James. Now, we spoke about him a little bit many times over the season, whether it's in a big differential video or potential transfer plans. I think Reece James, fitness-wise, is slowly starting to prove himself. And as we move into the new year, if he continues to play 3 games in 7 days, which was always the worry that he wouldn't do that, I think Reece James comes onto our radars, onto our shortlist, and will eventually make it into our teams, especially if Chelsea need to play a few more extra games. They don't seem to have too many good right back replacements. Of course, Gusto plays there, but when Reece James plays, he plays in midfield and he does complement Caicedo really well. And Chelsea, they don't necessarily have good games this week, but I think it's from game week 19 onwards, he will be definitely on my radar. Devaney of Crystal Palace, 0.3 riser. He did really well when he came on against Arsenal for, I think it was Eddie Nketiah. Will he start for Palace? I'm not too sure. Calvert-Lewin, a player that we spoke about in the big differential video earlier, I think it was last week, scoring really well for Leeds at the minute. Fixtures aren't necessarily great going forward, but for his price, a very good asset. You will, of course, have to get rid of him. I think it's after game week 20. And his fitness issues, of course, have been well documented over the past few years. But I think for that price, it might be worth a gamble. The trio at Manchester City, Donnarumma, Tijani Reinders, and Nunez, the right back. I have to say that because I get them mixed up between another Nunez, that is. So Donnarumma in goal. Whether James Trafford takes a few minutes off him in the cup competitions again, still yet to be seen. But that Manchester City backline with Nunez, Diaz, Gavardio, and Nico O'Reilly seems set in stone for many game weeks now. And I think Nunez is definitely one that is going to be on my radar, potentially this week, but certainly going forward. Reinders, lots of rotation expected. Man City don't have Marmoush, currently he's off at the African Cup of Nations, but still in that midfield, you've got Bernardo Silva, you've got, I think it's Reinders. Of course, you've got Doku. You might even have Semenyo coming into the mix. You've got Foden, you've got Gonzalez, you've got Rodri when he comes back from his injury. There's lots of options in that midfield, and he has been prone to a substitution and a benching. So whether I'd go there, we started off with him in our teams at the start of the campaign. I'd probably give it a miss just for now. Anthony Gordon and Nick Voltemada, the biggest trolls going into game week 17 from game week 16. They did both pick up goal contributions. I think it was Gordon with 2 assists and Voltemada with 2 goals after blanking for several game weeks. The fixtures going forward are pretty decent. I think it's Man United away and Burnley away in double game week 17. So, yes, Newcastle's away form has been really poor this season. But going forward, can they improve? I think they can. They've got the quality there. But Gordon's getting taken off between 60 and 75 minutes and replaced with normally Harvey Barnes. And also, this is on the goal scoring trail as well now that he's back in for that Newcastle side. Will Voltemada share some minutes there? I think he might do as well. I've seen the Dream Team Tonic lads speak about it. Voltemada hadn't had a shot on target, I think, since game week 13 or something silly. So I'd stay clear of him as well. Dan Barloud on here just for nostalgia reasons, same as Robin Royce. I both had them at the start of the season. Dan Ballard was in my team for 9 whole minutes before he got injured after I think he scored a 17 pointer or something silly in game week 2. The Sunderland defence have shown really capable aspects of it this season, solid at the back, Granit Xhaka patrolling that midfield. And I think for their price, once again, if you're looking for a few budget options until at least game week 20, there are two players that could fit in very easily. And the final player on today's list that will divide opinion across the board is Morgan Rogers. Away to Chelsea and away to Arsenal in game week 17, a very, very tricky double game week. But he's going to go up 0.3 again. He's scored, I think it's 17 and 18 points, so 35 points, I believe, over the last 2 game weeks, which have only consisted of 2 fixtures, so not double game weeks at all. He's sticking the ball in the top corner from 30 yards out. Are you a fixtures player? Are you a form player? Or are you a player that could potentially see goals, even tricky fixtures? And I think that's the category where you will fall in this week with regards to Morgan Rogers. Thankfully, English was difficult there. Thankfully, I do own him, so I'm not in that conundrum and dilemma. He will stay in my team this week because of the 0.3 rise. Will you bring him in or will you avoid him? Leave a comment down below. To round off my final thoughts ahead of the game week 17 deadline, I'm going to cover my team, how it went in game week 16 and what I'm looking forward to in game week 17. So for game week 16, I had 97 points. I dropped to, I think it was 891st in the world, there or thereabouts. So a small red arrow. And for most of the weekend, it looked quite positive. Of course, Morgan Rogers scored really, really well. Hincapié got the clean sheet first up, so covered the Timber clean sheet, which is what I was after. Erling Haaland, I nailed the captaincy. He hit 21 points, whereas a few went for Saka. I think Saka ended up on 7 points across the double game week where he came on as a sub in the Carabao Cup game. So gained 14 or so points for that captaincy shout, which was really good. And then Ekitike came in, scored a goal against Tottenham as well. But the problem was a few other issues arose. Jeremy Pino did play both fixtures as expected. It was a 50-50 decision, probably 70-30 actually more towards Pino than Declan Rice. I didn't expect Declan Rice to play the second fixture and he didn't. But unfortunately, kind of fortunate as an Arsenal fan, he did pick up 8 points in the first one and 2 in the second one. So he outscored Pino by 6 points. And I would have quite liked Declan Rice to be in my team going into game week 17 instead of Pino. In that fixture, the Carabao Cup one, that is, Pino picked up, I think, 2 or 3 separate injuries. He got a dislocated finger that he had put in at the side of the pitch, but didn't really look like doing anything at all in that entire game. So back-to-back blanks from him. Didn't even pick up a tackle point or a shot point. Just 2 basic blanks across the board. As I said, Rogers and Ekitike did well. Foden not so much. But the 2 Chuckle brothers at the back, Lacroix and Henderson. Henderson, I put out on social media yesterday after the Arsenal game. He has not scored a single point for me since game week 14. I think he's blanked in 3 and not played in the other 2. I think they're the Conference League ones. So Henderson, I'm basically playing with 10 players at the minute, and Lacroix was on for a clean sheet last night at 0-0. I think he was on 7 or 8 points at the time. He scored the own goal. So that own goal did indeed cost my team, I think it was 7 or 8 points. Of course, Arsenal did go on to win the game, so it's one of them ones where I lost points on my fantasy team, but I gained something elsewhere in real life football, which is really nice, especially when your team gets a benefit from it. But as you can see from my team, there are 2 flags on my players. Initially, I did have the captaincy armband on Erling Haaland and the vice captaincy on Bruno Fernandes. It was a tricky decision, but I think Bruno might have edged him closer to the deadline. But that decision has been taken out of my hands, of course. And in Hincapié is injury as well, so both them players have to come out of my team. It's not going to be a great week for my team value. Initially, I was going to bring out Lacroix, maybe leaving Hincapié for one last game week because Gabriel is looming on the horizon. But that can't be the case anymore. So Lacroix and Henderson are both going to drop 0.3 in value. So that's 0.6 lost. I'm currently at 59 million team value, so a very healthy amount. But losing team value like that isn't healthy in the long run. But I can't do anything about it. Hincapié is scheduled to go up 0.3 in price. So I could use the substitution chip to get him out, but it would be my last substitution chip of the season, and I'd quite like that for the back end where there's a bit of rotation across the board. So Bruno has to come out, and so does Hincapié. Initially, it was an Arsenal defender, a potentially West Ham defender. Yes, I know, stop laughing in the back. But their fixtures are really good. maybe a Kilman or something, but that was quickly swept aside. So Man City, Arsenal, maybe an Aston Villa, but their fixtures, of course, are really tricky this week. Away to Chelsea and away to Arsenal, I wouldn't expect any clean sheets at all. The Sunderland lads, which is why they appeared on my price rising thing on the graphic, that was, they really caught my eye for value for price. We've seen throughout the season, especially with Robin Royce in goal, just because he plays for Sunderland and it might be looked upon not with a positive attitude, doesn't mean they can't score points at all. And I do think there will be clean sheets along the way. But initially, I'm coming to the conclusion that probably a Man City or an Arsenal defender will replace Hincapié, and I'll have to take the hit on Henderson and Lacroix. For Bruno Fernandes, there's a few more options going forward. I think Jared Bowen was definitely one that was on my radar going into this game week, because looming in the background is the potential ability for me to play goal boost in this one. Goal boost, goal bonus, whatever one you want to call it, I always get mixed up. Because when you look at my team, besides Morgan Rogers and Erling Haaland and Foden, everyone's got a home fixture this week. So that is one of the reasons why I did go for Pino last week. He's got more of an attacking threat than Declan Rice, specifically in the goal section of things. So for Bruno Fernandes, I look at it and go, do I follow the crowd? Do I go for Cherky of Manchester City? He's picking up bonus points. He's doing really well, but I kind of want to go against that. I feel like the boat might have sailed slightly. I then move on to his teammate at Manchester United, Matheus Cunha. What is the effect of not having Bruno Fernandes, Brian Mbeumo, Amad Diallo? A lot less creativity, I should say. But is Matheus Cunha now on penalties? Does that add to his flavour of the week? Potentially. So I could end up with a 3-4-3. I could stick with a 3-5-2. But I think there's a few individual players and teams across the board that need targeting. And the weird thing is, you look at someone like Mateta at Crystal Palace, he's been awful. He's been taken off for 60, 70 minutes, but Tottenham and Fulham at home, normally, if he wasn't in such poor form, we would definitely be targeting an attacking asset from that team and targeting Tottenham away from home and Fulham away from home. I watched Fulham against Forest. Yes, they did win that game, but they looked rather toothless in that one. So for me, Hincapié and Bruno are coming out. Potentially a goal boost, bonus kind of thing. I'm leaning 55 for, 45 against currently, so I am in favour of it. But whether I pull the trigger is still yet to be seen. The thing is, you can wait till the back end of the season for this goal bonus, but Erling Haaland isn't going to be there. Nottingham Forest and Sunderland, I've done really well, specifically Sunderland this season at home. But would you say Haaland doesn't score at all in this double game week? I wouldn't as an Arsenal fan. I've seen the form that he's in. And when many did use their goal bonus a few weeks back when he had a double home fixture, I think it was against Sunderland, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Leeds, he didn't score in that one. So you can plump for two home fixtures. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to score in either of them. And I look at Saka, I look at Rodgers, who's in good goal scoring form, I look at Pino, Ekatike, another prime candidate for a potential captaincy this week. Whether or not I go there is still yet to be seen. But with Wolves and Leeds at home, and you know he's probably going to play at least 80 minutes in both of them. Wolves are the worst team potentially that we've ever seen in Premier League history, so definitely a team to target. But Hincapié and Bruno Fernandes definitely have to leave my team. 55% maybe on a goal bonus, and overall, the team value is going to plummet. So that does indeed conclude my Game Week 17 Final Thoughts video. Unfortunately, due to the deadline and all the timings of this specific game week, it's not necessarily the most up-to-date compared to normal game weeks, and that does leave a lot of questions even with a few days left. We are 2 days away from the deadline. As of time of recording this, it is the 24th, that is, it will come out on Christmas Day, so we'll be probably about 30 odd hours away from the deadline at the time of me uploading it. But there's still lots of decisions to be made for my own personal team. Leave a comment down below on what your biggest decisions are going into this Game Week 17 Big Prem Double Game Week deadline. Is it transfers? Is it team budget? I'll get back to pretty much every comment in the comment section down below. So if you've got any queries or questions, don't be shy, put them down there and you will be hearing back from me in due course if you've got a potential question, that is. Also, the socials down in the description below, TikTok, Instagram X, if you want to go check it out. All the good stuff over there. With all the games coming up thick and fast, I do tend to put out the team news as well if you don't manage to catch it on social media. Now, thankfully, I'm probably going to put my feet up now for a few days, and as I'm sure many of you are over Christmas, enjoy your Christmas Day. Sending merry wishes, of course. This is the first year that the channel has been up on Christmas Day, so thank you very much for the support over the last 9 months or so. We're rapidly approaching a year on the channel, so could go down below, smash the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button whilst you're down there as well. Just send the love out across all formats. Be greatly appreciated. Have I got anything else? Probably not. If I have, you'll hear from me in the description down below. So thank you very much for watching on this festive edition of the Final Thoughts, kind of deadline-esque kind of thing. So thank you very much for watching. Merry Christmas to you all, and you'll be seeing me in a new one very soon.